second by Mayor Ramiro. Thank you, from Edinburgh. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, GIS data request. Mr. Cantu.
Yes, the next item is our GIS data request. On our website, we do have an interactive map that when you guys have time, if you could please review and see if there's any outliers in our data. We'd like to keep this data updated because this is the information that we use to present to y'all, so you guys can have the best information needed to make the decisions you guys have. And up here is a new form that we have in your packet and in our website. It's just a simple city limits, ETJs, parks, sidewalks, and bike lanes is what we're just mostly looking for from the cities. Right there, we also have the city, the point of contact that you would like for us to reach out to so we can get that information, and just the phone number and email. This is all just for informational purposes.
Okay.
Where do they submit this to?
They could email it to me at, I didn't put my email up there, but it is available on my website, but it's fcantu@RGVMPO, or they can just submit it to Mr. Cannon, and I'll receive the information from them.
Maybe update the attached material, the GIS data request, because it doesn't have any of that information.
Okay, yes, I'll make that change and re-update that form by the end of this week.
All right, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, does somebody have a question? No? Item 4, City of McAllen 2018 Traffic Improvement Bond.
Good afternoon, Policy Board members. My name is Marlene Garza with the City of McAllen Traffic Operations Department. I'll be giving to you a presentation over the traffic improvement bond that the City of McAllen conducted back in 2018. As far as the presentation goes, to change the slides, do I just press here? Okay, I just want to make sure. It's a pleasure to be with you all today, sharing the City of McAllen Traffic Improvement Bond, which was passed in 2018, and we completed this bond with all the different aspects in May of 2022. With me today is our signal timing study, Dr. James Robertson with Lee Engineering. You will be hearing from him in a little while regarding the signal timing portion of the study. In early 2018, the City of McAllen conducted a citizen survey in which we asked our community various questions regarding the services provided by the City of McAllen. The survey ranged from the issuance of building permits to the state of our drainage infrastructure to evaluation of our roadways. The concerns regarding delays on our roadways, congestion along major arterials, and poor signal infrastructure and its effect on the quality of life could not be ignored. So with the dwindling infrastructure and old timing plans, here we go. The city staff at the time was able to put a packaged plan, which eventually became our 2018 traffic bond. On the screen, you'll see that this bond was broken into 3 components: cabinets and controllers, communications to these controllers through fiber or Wi-Fi, and lastly, the signal timing study. For the first part of the bond, what the City of McAllen was trying to achieve is to update our infrastructure. We went from a TS1 cabinet to a TS2 Type 2 controller. Pretty much what that did was allowed the controller to have an Ethernet port so that we can be able to communicate to the controller and be able to know any malfunctions, if the signal was flashing, if there was any other components within the controller that were faulty, and that was going to also help with the operation at the intersection. The next slide is just a breakdown of the cabinets and controllers. So a majority of our controllers came from the bond, but we were also able to secure other means to be able to get new controllers. 21 came from the MPO, some from City of McAllen projects, and other from TxDOT projects. I wanted to provide this breakdown so that others can see that it wasn't all just from the bond, but the bond was the main source of funding. We were able to get other funds through and other projects, new controllers. Communications was the next part of our bond. Communications, again, was really important because we wanted to make sure that we knew what was going on at the intersection, if it was flashing, how to respond. Do we need to change some kind of component in the controller that was faulty? We started off with fiber. Fiber at the time, a lot more reliable, probably one of the main sources of communication that we were able to provide to the controller. However, through time, coordination, working on 23rd Street, 10th Street, Pecan, all the major roads, especially along TxDOT right-of-way, we found that there's a lot of utilities in the area. We're competing with cover, right-of-way availability. So in 2020, we decided to take a different approach, especially because at the time, during the 2020 pandemic, the city of McAllen was able to install Wi-Fi at different locations of the city to provide free Wi-Fi to the community, especially for those students who didn't have access to Wi-Fi at home. So we took that approach and we used it with our traffic signals, and that approach saved us a lot of money. We were already familiar with the installation since we had done the installation ourselves for the Wi-Fi hotspots. So we took that approach. We were able to target a lot more of the traffic signal or the communication to these traffic signals, and the map kind of gives you an idea of this is what the city of McAllen looks like, and which signals are on fiber, which are on Wi-Fi, and which we still need to work on. If you'll notice, there's about an equal amount on fiber like there are on Wi-Fi. So that was the other approach we took, and we're still working on getting more fiber, but this was able to not only save us a lot of money, but also prepare us for the next portion of the bond, which was the signal timing study. One of the things we were able to do with the being able to communicate to the controllers, we were even able to put in all our timings if we wanted to through the computer. So that saved us a lot of time. And then next I'll let Mr. Robertson take over.
So this first slide is just a brief summary of how we went about thinking about signal timing in McAllen and signal timing in general. We like to use an objectives-based approach, partially determined by the volume of traffic along the roadway. So if you have light flow, think late evening, Sunday morning, not church Sunday morning, but the other part, that's kind of that green part. We're trying to minimize phase failures, so that means that if you pull up to a signal, you see a green light, you get to go, you don't have to wait through another red cycle. During uncongested situations, think sort of lunchtime on some of the roadways, we're trying to just get smooth flow around the corridor, so sometimes you might have to slow down, but you don't usually have to stop, so you're moving along and you don't really notice the signals, so that's what we're looking for there. And we're trying, when you get to two majors, say Business 83 at 2nd or Business 83 at McCall, we're just trying to even out the delay at those signals, so everybody waits about the same amount of time. When you start getting congested, we have to change things because traffic breaks down. It's like rice going through a funnel. Once you try to put too much rice through, it just jams up. And what you want to do is make sure that, A, you avoid those jams, or if you have them, that the queues are in places where it isn't going to cause a problem. So, for example, we don't want to put a queue along Ware Road. We'd rather have that queue on the side street because Ware Road's 60 miles per hour or 45 miles per hour, depending on the segment, and we don't want cars coming up on queues along that roadway. So in general, that's how we're thinking as we're going through the data and setting up the model. The study had 6 north-south corridors. They're listed there on the screen. That was the length of the corridors. North-south was a lot longer than east-west, as those of you who live here are probably aware. The east-west corridors, these were the corridors we were to look at east to west. One thing going into the study, the north-south had some progression on them. The city of McAllen was doing what they could with the knowledge they had, and they were essentially in the morning bringing everybody in southbound, so everybody was getting priority southbound, and then in the afternoon everything was northbound, and there was no progression east to west, which you'll see in some of the numbers. With all of that, we also use TxDOT's contract with INRIX. They have a statewide contract that gives everybody access to free travel time data along the corridors every day. Just this morning, since I was in town, I'm working with Sergio. We ran through all the corridors to see if there were any new hotspots that we needed to look at this afternoon. So we're gonna go out and look at a couple of spots. This is that data. This is total travel time for the corridor, so that's the sum of the difference for each of the directions. You'll see northbound, it went up by 5 seconds, but again, they had priority in the afternoon for northbound, so it was really hard for me to go improve on, you have it perfectly progressed in one direction. I can't do much better than a perfect progression in one direction. But you'll see that we have pretty big improvements in southbound, eastbound, and westbound, which didn't have priority in those times. And overall, it was a 600 seconds of reduction in delay total. So that's a sum of the time it takes you to drive all those corridors if you were to drive it in the PM peak. In the midday, we had a similar 400 seconds, same sort of pattern, though I did get slightly better northbound in the midday. This is a screenshot of the INRIX IQ data that we got access to via TxDOT. That's free for any municipality, your consultants. You just have to fill out some paperwork and you can get access to this service. One of the tools that we used a lot that was available through this is something called the congestion scan. Those red spots are areas where there are queued vehicles, essentially, is a good way to think about it. The blue means they're moving smoothly, green means they're moving smoothly. Yellow means you're slowing down, red means you're at about 40% free flow speed. You can see the after is on the top and the before is on the bottom. And in general, we made the red go away in a lot of locations where we could, so we got improvement.
Well, this last image is kind of just a summary of what the city of McAllen worked on. You'll see the lines in red are our north and south corridors that they don't really connect. It kind of just service predominantly the city of McAllen. But if you look at the east-west corridors, we have city of Mission on one side, city of Pharr on the other, city of Edinburgh in another location. So we just wanted to highlight the importance behind what the city of McAllen did, and hopefully be able to share with everyone that, we're here to share information to make sure that people traveling on these corridors like Dove, Trenton, Business 83, that we can able to partner in the future to get people moving through these corridors. They are major corridors, and it's really important. I know the MPO is working on the congestion study, and we're already working with them. We've already provided our models, so this is the reason why we wanted to share our project, to let everybody know what the city of McAllen is doing with the hopes of how it'll impact adjacent municipalities and local governments. So thank you. Oh, any questions? Sorry.
Any questions? All right. Thank you for that presentation. No action is needed, right? Let me just have a motion to acknowledge the report. Motion and a second by Pete. All in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, CMP Workshop Tier 2 follow-up. Luis.
Hello, good afternoon. In relation to the City of McAllen's presentation just given now, we're on Tier 2 of our congestion management process. So we had a workshop where the signals were identified that are going to be included as part of the study. So looking at the timeline here up on the screen, beginning in January, which is now, the data collection has started. By February is when data should be already being analyzed and all collected. And starting in April is when our consultant CoPlan, Steve, will be providing us guidance on the signals and what type of updates can be made to help with the flow of traffic. And that will be running all the way through May. And then come September of this year, we'll get our final deliverables, when we'll be getting the comparison similar to what McAllen just showed us of the before and after of the signal changes that were made from the last go-around of our CMP as well. So the important part to look at right now on the timeline is the gray arrow on top with the red lettering. So, as a request from Steve Copeland, he says that right now that all the local governments should be looking to do all the repairs on detection system and GPS clocks on the signals that are as part of the study, in order to be ready for come April when the new timing plans may be implemented into or put into the systems. So right now is the time to start doing that, and we have all the way till April because that's when he's gonna go out in the field and actually provide that guidance. And down at the bottom, I did put his contact info. He did mention if anything is needed as far as the data that he has collected, which was the first phase of the CMP. So he has all the information of all those signals that do have issues and need to be addressed. So there's his contact info. He says to feel free and contact him, that he's willing to help out. So that's where we're at with the congestion management process at this time. And this is the work ahead that we have. I'll take any questions if there are any at this time.
No questions? All right, can I have a motion to acknowledge?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I remember the study from when he was here last time, and like Brownsville had 90% out. So I don't know if we're gonna be able to have those done in 3 months.
Yes, I've actually been in coordination with the city of Brownsville.
Okay.
They're addressing some of their cabinets and have a plan in place to work on all of their signalization. Steve did mention that the city of Brownsville will be put towards the end of the LGs that he does work with to give a little bit more time. But we're in coordination with the city, and
Great.
they're out there addressing the issues. Yes, sir, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Luis, was the list provided to TxDOT? Because many of the cities
Yes.
are under 50,000 that we would be responsible for.
Yes,
That
sir.
list was provided for TxDOT?
Yes, TxDOT also did provide the data for the project that's upcoming, replacing of signals as well. I don't recall the name of the project exactly, but I know that there's also an initiative within TxDOT to replace cabinets, so that was also shared with the LGs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, can I have a motion to acknowledge? Motion and second. All in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Item 6, 2022 Thoroughfare Plan Amendment Process Update. Luis.
Yes, okay, so this is in reference to the 2022 Thoroughfare Plan process. For the reason being that it hasn't been presented to TAC and policy. That'll be next month. So what's in red up in the timeline, up on the screen, was the last step there was in December 21st was the deadline for all submittals. So as of now, we have a total of 11 submittals. So right now, we're doing the coordination between ourselves and the local governments to acquire all ordinances and supportive documentation for all the amendments received. So there have been emails and communications been sent out by MPO staff. If there's pending within your local governments, please try to get to those as soon as possible so that we can record those and be ready to present in February TAC and policy. And after we've taken it through policy in February, we'll be taking it in March to both county commissioners' courts for final approval. So the resolution will be taken there as well. And once they've been approved in March is when we'll make the final revisions to our internal data, which is our interactive map UMAP. And that's when everything is official, and that's also an important time as well, because that's when local governments can start looking at what has been recorded by the MPO and start seeing what type of updates may be needed for this coming revision cycle, which we will start off again in August. But there's no need to wait till August. You know, if there's anything that's seen within the map, these all changes will be there recorded as of April. So if anything's noticed, it is okay to go ahead and start sending those revisions our way, and we'll start recording those. So that'll be until August of this year, we'll start the annual thoroughfare plan process once again, and we'll be following this same process next year. If there are any questions with the thoroughfare plan
We
process.
did meet that December 21st deadline, right?
Yes, sir.
There were no issues there?
Yes, no, we did receive all the submittals that we were expecting.
All right. Any other questions? All right, motion to acknowledge? First and a second, all in favor? Did you want to say something, Andrew?
No, sir.
You sure?
I'm
Okay.
positive, sir.
All in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Item 7, presentation discussion on TxDOT's State Infrastructure SIB Loan Program.
Good afternoon, Policy Board members. My name is Chris Nelson. I'm a transportation planner on MPO staff. I wanted to give a presentation on their State Infrastructure Bank loan program, which is a financing tool for transportation projects. But before I give my presentation, I actually wanted to introduce Mr. Dallas Teston. He's going to give a quick presentation. He's going to talk more about the processes and eligibilities for the loans, and then I'm going to touch base on the economic side of it and how it can benefit you economically to take out the loans. So with that, I'll give the floor over to him.
Thank you, Chris. As you mentioned, my name is Dallas Teston. I work for TxDOT. I run the State Infrastructure Bank based out of Austin. So as you mentioned, I'm going to go a little bit of background of the program, eligibility, talk some of the benefits, as well as the process of taking out a loan. One of the big takeaways I want y'all to take away from it is a low-cost transportation financing option that is available to you. So it is a, kind of a tool in the toolbox for your communities. So to start things off, the SIB acts as a revolving loan program. So all of our repayments, any interest we earn goes right back into the fund, and it grows over time so we can get more transportation projects done. The money that we're using is considered non-federal dollars. So using the SIB itself won't federalize your project or bring any additional requirements. So if you have other federal funds, other state dollars, there could be stipulations there that you'll have to adhere to, but using the SIB itself won't do that. Some stats. So we've done 147 loans to date, $738 million that we've loaned, and we've used that to leverage and get done about $8 billion in projects across the state. So who typically borrows from us? So our typical borrower is a city and county. So three-quarters of our loans have gone to cities and counties. Another 12% have gone to water supply entities, so water supply corporations, BUDs, SUDs. A few communities have leveraged their economic development corporations, so using the 4B sales tax, if it's eligible to leverage, take out debt, and use that for transportation projects. And we've worked with a lot of the RMAs around the state, so we did work with HCRMA on the 365 project. Visually, this is kind of what it looks like, probably what you'd imagine, a lot around the urban areas, the cities up and down the I-35 corridor. Kind of zooming into this area. So these are some of the loans we've done in this area. So to break that down a little bit, these are kind of examples of what communities have used these for around here. So most recent one, utility relocation to help get the US 83 project to keep that going. Hidalgo County in the mid-2000s, as I mentioned, the HCRMA loan, and as well as Mission used it for construction. I believe those are off-system roadways. So looking at the eligible uses for the program and eligible projects, I'm going to focus on the uses first. So the money can be used for basically anything involved with the construction or reconstruction with the roadway. So obviously that's the actual roadway, but if you have sidewalk plans in with the project or bike lanes or anything like that, that's also eligible, as well as any engineering or design involved. A big one right now is contingency. So with inflation, rising labor costs, we're encouraging all of our borrowers to include contingency in their loan request. Basically, if you don't use that money, you'll return it and pay down the loan. But if you need more, if costs continue to go up, we'll have to go through the entire process again. So it's a lot easier to kind of do it on the front end. Two common uses, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation. If you happen to need to move utilities and are doing a joint bid with TxDOT through an AFA, you can borrow for that monetary contribution as well. One of the things I've been hearing through the MPOs are also the local matches. So any of the new grant programs that have come out through the recent legislation, so if there's a local match component, you can borrow for that. And also any projects that may have bid and the bids are coming in higher now and the locals might be on the hook, you can borrow for that overage as well. Also, just to round it out, any financial and legal fees that you incur through the course of that application. So moving over to eligible projects. So as I mentioned, the dollars we're using are non-federal, but we are still in partnership with FHWA. So the roadways have to be federal aid eligible. That doesn't mean they have to be on system, so they can be on or off system. They just have to be functionally classified above a rural minor collector. And then generally any projects that are eligible under Title 23. So So that can be any kind of transportation alternative projects, safe routes to schools, stuff like that. Anything, most of the new programs that came out through the new legislation are all through Title 23 as well. So kind of giving a roadway example. So this is from our statewide planning map. There are instructions on our website on how to kind of use this and look at your community. This is a snapshot over McAllen. So the orange roadways are on-system roads that are eligible. Any colored road other than that is an off-system road that could be potentially eligible for SIP financing. So I show that just to show there are opportunities in your communities for off-system roadways if you're looking at doing any reconstruction work or looking at individual projects. There is, especially in urban areas, there is opportunity out there. So why borrow from the SIB? I know you have a lot of options. So as I mentioned, we just want to make sure y'all know it's a tool. So some of the advantages, so the low cost of borrowing. We don't charge any fees to apply or no fees for loan handling. Most of our loans are done through a direct loan agreement. So we can't be the sole purchaser of a certificate of obligation or a bond. Most of our loans, and it's authorized in statute to borrow directly from the program. Prepayments can be made at any time. So if you're ever issuing refunding bonds to lower your debt costs, you can pay off your loan at any time without penalty. If we need to defer out a couple payments or do some interest-only payments, we can do that as well. We're pretty flexible on the payback. We can line it up with your other debt service as well. Touching on the rates, so we set the rate at the time you apply. So we're in kind of a rising rate environment. So it kind of helps with a little bit with the interest rate risk. So if rates continue to go up between the time you apply and when we close the loan, which can be a few months, you're locked into your rate at the time you apply, and it's the fixed rate throughout the life of the loan. So going a little farther with rates, so this is an example of an A-rated borrower. These rates are from December, and it'll kind of tie into Chris's presentation. But looking at these rates, the two functions we use are the credit rating of the borrower and how long you want to borrow. So as you can kind of see, there's a sliding scale for an A-rated borrower here the longer you go out. Conversely, if we were looking at a 10-year, the AAA would be the bottom, and it'd go up to the lowest credit rating at the top. And we don't require a credit rating to borrow, so if you don't have a current one and don't want to incur that cost, you don't have to.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part?
So if you don't have a current credit rating and you don't want to incur the costs to go get one, we don't require one. We just kind of use the non-investment grade rating on the scale. Sure.
Are those interest rates applicable to the AA or AAA?
So a AA would be lower than this. So I kind of picked the middle of the scale for an A-rated borrower here. Correct. So so if this was just showing like a 10-year loan, the AAA would be at the bottom, kind of the lowest rate, and then it would kind of be a sliding scale to the lowest credit rating on there. Does that make sense? One big advantage, I think, to this area, so any entities that are in an economically disadvantaged county receives an interest rate discount through our program. So currently, Hidalgo County has a 95% adjustment percentage. So we use that to lower the rate in basis points. So kind of showing the example, if you happen to land on a 4% rate, we would lower it by 95 basis points, so 0.95% down to a 3%. So, you know, if you're a AA or higher rated, going on a 10 or 15-year debt, that can bring the rate pretty low. So jumping into the process, I typically say it's about a 4 to 6 month process from application to loan funding. So to kick it off, if you're doing the direct loan agreement, your city council or governing body will need to pass a resolution, submit that resolution with the completed application. We'll review that within TxDOT. It takes about 2 months to get on our commission agenda. If it's over 10 million or for an off-system project, we do have to do 2 commission approvals. We can do those on back-to-back months, but it just kind of tacks on 1 month in there. If there is a required environmental approval, we'll have to have that before the commission will officially approve it. That's usually one thing that holds them up, so I like to kind of call it out early. Post-commission approval, it takes about 30 to 45 days to close a loan, so we'll draft the loan agreement, provide it to you and your advisors for review. Once we get to a good version, it'll go back to your governing body for approval. You'll approve that. We do everything through DocuSign, so we don't need to shuffle around or mail back and forth paper. Once we execute, we usually disperse the funds within a week or two after that. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Some key takeaways, if you fell asleep through all that. So just remember, the SIB is a tool in the toolbox, right? So it's a low-cost transportation financing tool that is available to you. So as you're looking at your portfolio, planning out projects, just kind of keep it in mind. And know that on or off-system roads may be eligible, so it's not just TxDOT roadways. We always want to prioritize the TxDOT projects, make sure they're getting done, but we do have adequate funds in the program right now where we can take on and assist some of those off-system projects to get done. We fix the rate at the time of application. Entire process is about 4 to 6 months, and all of them have to go through our Transportation Commission. With that, we have a lot of information on our website as well. Copy of the application. We've tried to make it as straightforward as possible. 3 pages, financial terms, project information, as well as directions on how to check your roadways with that statewide planning map, and some flyers. And with that, I would love to hear what questions y'all have.
Dallas, what's the advantage of this over just doing bonds? Of course, I can think of a bunch, but I just wanted you to delineate those maybe?
Well, like I said, the kind of the lower cost of borrowing, it's done through a direct loan agreement. Once again, that's just kind of something you'll have to look at with your advisors and your own individual debt portfolio to kind of see where you would fall in that. And, if you ever want to check where our rates are, you can just email us and we'll kind of let you know where we are at that moment. Good.
Thank you for the presentation. Just had a couple of questions. So what is used as the main source of collateral for these ad valorem taxes for cities, for the applicant?
So really, anything that's eligible to be pledged towards debt for a transportation project.
So it's not just ad valorem, it's just.
Right, so, as long as the eligible pledge supports the debt, typically it's ad valorem, utility revenues, I think with the EDCs, the 4B sales tax. But I think our 2 primary ones are ad valorem or utility revenues.
And just my other question was, if obviously some of these projects are larger projects, so this would be used as one source of funding. Could it be used towards that? And,
Yeah, so right now, yes, so it can be the sole source on a project, or it can be part of a larger puzzle. If it is part of a larger puzzle, we'll kind of need assurances that the rest of the puzzle is falling into place. But, it can be the sole source or part of a larger plan as well.
Great, thank you.
Toll road repair projects, we can pledge the toll revenues? Is that something also, or?
I am not sure, to be honest, on that one.
We'll follow up with you later on that.
Okay.
Do you have to be the primary? In other words, for the example that Ms. Parker just gave, or any of the other ones, if you've already got, either ad valorem or bonds, committed, and that was well, my question was going to be, for those communities that are concerned that if they went to the SIB for a loan, would that have a potential negative or detrimental impact with regards to their overall rating going forward? Follow me? Because you got bonding requirements. You've already got debt issued already out there, and here you are going to now. Now, as long as you have quote-unquote available credit, based upon either your bond rating or your revenues, ad valorem, et cetera, will it have a negative impact? In my mind, I'm thinking, you're offering me another credit card, It's got a great rate. Sounds awesome, but maybe I'm already tapped out. Or if I do that, even though I'm going to be able to make that minimum payment, is that going to affect my rating going forward? That's really the question I'm asking you.
Yeah, so, and the answer to that is it really depends on your individual situation, right? So if the concern is like a priority lien against utility revenues or something, as long as there's enough capacity within that, we can accept like a subordinate lien.
You will accept being a subordinate?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if in your overall debt profile, that's what works for you, and there's capacity within your revenues to show that you can pay back the SIB loan on top of all your other debt as well, That's kind of part of our financial review with every loan is we look at that. And then as far as your other bond covenants, that's really kind of on the borrower to look at and make sure you're complying with all of, if you have debt service coverage ratios with all of your other debt that you have outstanding, you'll need to make sure that's complied with as well. Generally, we're looking at like a 1.0 coverage for our loans, especially on a utility pledge or other revenue pledge. But once again, it's really situational and kind of what the loan is, what the project is, things like that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mayor?
I was just gonna mention, Judge, we actually just went through that, just submitted our SIB loan application this week for a utility relocation, but your financial advisor will probably let you know how it could impact, your financing. Main thing is it's gotta be disclosed.
I'm just curious, was that under 10 million?
No, it was more.
It was more? Okay.
It's about 13, I think, But,
Yeah.
And what's the city pledging on that one?
so on that one, we were gonna pledge utility fund, but I think we're doing COs, I'm sorry, the ad valorem.
Ad valorem, okay.
Yeah, just because we have another project going on with the utility fund, so. But you just have to disclose it, so it's just like any other loan, right? It's gotta be disclosed and then weighed against your debt capacity, so.
I mean, you're doing a great sales pitch. I mean, four.
Thank you.
4 to 6 months, quick application. Now, if there is a quote-unquote mistake or clarification needed on an application, I'm assuming it's not dead in the water. The application can be amended, or if there's any concerns or questions on the part of the SIB, it can be addressed by the entity.
Correct, yeah. So we'll do an initial review after we receive it. Any questions we'll have, we'll go back to the entity. We also, part of the internal review is we'll have the district as well as 3 other divisions within TxDOT that are kind of SMEs on environmental design, right-of-way, things like that, look at the application as well. And if they have any questions, they'll kind of, we usually run it through the district because they're usually project-related. If it's an off-system, local-let project, then we will go straight back to the locals. But no, it doesn't kind of stop the process if we have to do anything like that. We, communities kind of amend their application. Sometimes, whether it's the term or they have to clarify the pledge a little bit.
All
it's
of
pretty
those issues
common.
can be addressed in the application and decision-making process.
Correct.
Okay.
Just one last question. So what's the source of funding? Is this general revenue fund from the state, or is it, where are y'all getting
So
your funds?
the initial seed funding was from the feds and with a state match in the late 90s. So as I mentioned, it's a revolving fund, so we lend out all of that money. It's all come back in as kind of repayments or, so we've had a good bit of cash sitting for a while, so interest on that cash has also gone into that. So we're trying to put that money to work, but all the funds we have in there are either repayments from non-federal dollars from borrowers or interest that we've earned on the fund.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
Just a general comment. Thank you, Dallas, for coming down and making this presentation. I would just encourage all local governments to take advantage of this great opportunity. Here last month, we had a tremendous challenge put before us by Chairman of Transportation House, Transportation Chairman Canales. Anytime we have project delays, the cost of the project is going to go up. So let's look for any opportunities. This is just another resource available to us. I volunteered Dallas and the FAR district team to assist you through the whole process. Some of this terminology or language is foreign to me as an engineer, but obviously bankers and accountants can talk through this, and we're here to help. So please take advantage of the opportunity.
Pete, I was going to say it's foreign because Dallas is here offering a bunch of money to help us get our projects done. But anyway.
I will say our rates are a lot better than credit cards.
Yes. And one last point of clarification, the commission that makes the approval is TxDOT, not a separate CIB commission, correct?
Correct, it's a Texas Transportation Commission, yes. Yeah, so all of our approvals go through them. If it's under 10 million for a TxDOT project, it's just once. If it's off-system over 10 million, we do have to go through a preliminary approval. But yes, they are the approving body on that.
Sorry, Pete. All right, anybody else?
Did you have a question? Okay.
All right, can I have Chris, you still had a very, very short presentation, as I understand.
Okay. Again, my name is Chris Nelson. I'm a transportation planner on MPO staff. This is our staff analysis of SIB loans. So I included this spreadsheet. It has the interest rates for different entities just based on the maturity year of the loan. It includes entities in general that are A-rated versus unrated, which would be the lowest rating. And then I also included in this spreadsheet, I also included the rates for Hidalgo County and then also Cameron County. And then the rates for Starr County would also be the same as Hidalgo County. I looked that one up as well. But as Mr. Teston noted in his presentation, a major advantage that we have here is we are in EDCs, so you actually get a discount on the interest rate due to that. You get about a 0.95% deduction in the interest rate in Hidalgo County, and then it's deducted by 0.86 over in Cameron County. So they're very low rates if you look at the chart. Even for a loan that doesn't mature until 2050, the interest rate in Hidalgo County, for example, would only be 3.14, which is less than inflation on average, which would be 4% on average. So then I also created this other spreadsheet, and this just kind of goes through what I was just talking about. This looks at an example project, and then if you were to fund that project with a SIB loan, covering 80% of the project costs, which are the amount that are eligible for the SIB loan funding, this shows you, based on the loan maturity year, how much it would cost to take out the SIB loan and then do the project now and then pay off the loan later versus waiting until later to actually do the project after the costs have been affected by inflation. So you can see just from this analysis, you can see if you were to take out a loan that, for example, matures in 2035, whenever you go to pay that off, you would only be paying $3,885,000 more or less, versus if you were to wait until 2035 to actually do the project, that same project would actually cost $4,440,000. So you're saving a decent chunk of the cost if you actually take out the loan and do the project now versus waiting until later and then paying the inflated costs. And then this is just the same thing. This is just an example from Cameron County. Again, same thing. You can see all the way through the chart, regardless of the loan maturity year, you can see that it's actually cheaper to take out the loan and do the project now versus waiting until later and then paying for the project with inflated costs. So it might seem a little bit counterintuitive to some people that you can actually save money by taking out a loan, but because the interest rate on the loan is actually less than average inflation, and this is just average inflation, this isn't even considering the crazy amount of inflation that we've had in recent years, but even in an average inflationary environment where inflation is around 4% per year, you would still be saving money because the interest rates are actually lower than 4% with these loans.
Chris, real quick, and I don't know if you can answer this, or I should have asked Dallas. I asked Andrew, on the eligible costs, I was asking if the environmental portion was covered and eligible. And I think you said under contingency, it would be. So that might be a question or an answer info that helps everybody here, that if you're concerned that you have to wait until you're ready for construction, not necessarily. You can, at day one, with regards to the environmental, SIB loan would also be an eligible tool to utilize for that. So it can be from day one to completion, right, the SIB loan?
Yes, sir, that's essentially correct. You can use it for a number of different phases, not just construction. Would you like to chime in?
So actually, the commission does want a cleared environmental if there's one required on the project. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg where it is an eligible use in a technical sense, but the commission wants those environmental components done before they'll approve a loan. There is a situation, kind of if there's not federal or state money on it, where it is possible to use it, or if there's additional work that needs to be done after it's been cleared initially, where you can use it on it. But yeah, that is something we've been trying to work on to get those early components, because with that requirement where the commission needs to approve it, it kind of kicks those out a little bit.
Well, see, all of a sudden, yeah, your sales pitch isn't quite as attractive as it was earlier. And the reason being, and it goes back to what you said and what we had at our last meeting, we're trying to make sure that some of our projects, new or old, but especially the older ones that have funding or funds committed to them that aren't moving, that this potentially could be a tool that they could utilize. Because if they're short on the local match, i.e., They don't have it for the environmental. Well, that's what's been delaying the project, and we all need to realize we're gonna have to make these difficult, well, not difficult, but pragmatic decisions that are gonna benefit the entire valley, to move the projects around, that those that are ready to go, or at least potentially eligible. So you want environmental clearance, but, there's no but?
Yeah,
Can I chime in real quick? So would the commission consider conditional approval based upon an environmental clearance? That way, at least as a community, we could know that we can rely, for example, on this portion, right, of the overall funding. And then just, obviously, as soon as environmental's cleared, it could be funded. We can close on it. I'm just kind of
do
curious
you,
if the
do you mean
commission
as
would
far as
consider
using it as showing you have a commitment once the
Correct,
environmental is
correct.
cleared?
You know, kind of like banks do, right? You get a
Yeah,
conditional
yeah.
approval, and then you, I mean, obviously you have to clear all these things before you close, right? So I'm just kind of wondering if maybe that could help, you know?
Yeah, I do think that's a scenario we could probably work with if, you know, if part of your funding package is that you need to show a commitment once this is done.
Correct. I'm talking about larger projects, right?
Right.
As a source of funding. I mean, if you know you could rely on a SIB loan, of course, it's got to clear environmental, but at least we'll know that the commission's already behind it and we've already gone through the application process versus, okay, we cleared environmental now, we'll start the application process.
Yeah, so, you know, we did do something similar on a community wanted to use the SIB for just some off-system reconstruction work. So the design has to meet AASHTO standards as well. So part of the condition of the approval, and that also went into the loan agreement, was that those design plans have to be approved by TxDOT. So there is precedent to kind of doing something like that.
So if I may chime in, it's about managing the risk, right? So I can't speak for the commission, but what I can say is, if you don't have an environmental document clear, how long is it gonna take? Is it gonna take 5, 10, 20 years? So then the city or the county would be on the hook that much longer. By having an environmental document cleared, that means you got skin in the game, the project is moving forward, and your risk is minimized.
Okay. Sorry, Chris. I needed to clarify that.
Yeah, so in conclusion, I would say that taking out the loan and actually using the loan to fund the project and letting the project now would actually be cheaper in both Cameron and Hidalgo County and even in Starr County than actually waiting until later on, until you have the funds to let the project, because inflation will have increased the cost to actually make it more expensive than if you were to just have taken out the loan and then paid off the loan later on. So that concludes our staff analysis. I would concur with what Pete and others have said. It is a useful tool, not only for accelerating the letting of projects, which we all know is a goal of the MPO, and then also to save the entities money. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and let me know if you guys have any questions.
Any other questions? All right, if not, can I have a motion to acknowledge? Motion and a second? We have a second, right? All in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Let the minutes reflect that Commissioner Torres tag team with Commissioner Fuentes in the middle of that, so that she's now representing Hidalgo County. Thank you, Commissioner. Item 8, consideration and action on the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside TASA program.
Good afternoon, honorable members of our policy board. I'm not showing any new information today too much. This is a continued conversation about the TASA program overall. As you know, we're just pending one more AFA amendment. The rest of the projects have executed all either original AFAs or AFA amendments so far. Today, we do have some resolutions that we're asking for action on, and if those do get approved, then we'll be asking for a deadline for executing those potential AFA amendments. But overall, updated news on the Hidalgo County Mobility Plan. The procurement plan has been approved by TxDOT, and that's great. They're addressing comments for the bid documents before they go out for their RFP. McAllen's project continues to develop. They had a meeting with the railroad. They got concurrence on design. Should be submitting exhibits soon, this week, I believe. Their environmental is still under review, and I believe they're either working on their 30% comments to submit 60% by February 15th. The city of FAR as well is progressing. Overall, they have to go back to preliminary engineering and environmental for some new sections. As you recall, we approved the railroad crossings in some areas, but those are being replaced in other areas around different schools per their interlocal agreement with the other cities, San Juan and Alamo. So outside of those two new sections, the rest of it is being developed, and they're hopeful that they'll put everything together for a 95% package due late in February. The city of Brownsville's, due to some right-of-way, private right-of-way, has had to reroute this project. And so they have been working with the San Benito area office to discuss basically the cross-section and what the design concept is gonna be for a right-of-way agreement. And so that, if we are asking for action today on this item for a resolution, but if all goes well, we do believe they'll be able to, if they continue moving and bringing everything forward, get that new route environmental clearance, submit 30% by February 2nd. They do have their consultants on board and are moving forward. We have regular meetings. And so I'll take a moment here for potential action. Any questions?
Perhaps describe the resolution ever.
Sure. The resolution initially outlines where the funds originated from. And, I think I turned it off. Okay. There's no pointer. So the first section is just basically that it was the Brownsville MPO that had received the TASA funds originally for 2019, 2020. Those funds then, because of the merger, the RGVMPO Transportation Policy Board is now the current designated agency, and we're the responsible agency for approving changes and selecting project overall for TASA funding. And so that is what the resolution kind of outlines, the history of the funding, and then ends with, we want to reflect changes to the project, and we're coming to this decision-making board for approval of those changes, since the original decision-making board is no longer.
The issues that you said came up as a result of some private right-of-way?
That's correct.
How much of a change was required in the reroute?
Yeah, the original
I can't
reroute
see.
was along a drainage easement, and you can see it broken up here. This is the southern half in the phase 1, and then it continues on that drainage easement north towards Los Fresnos in phase 2. And so originally, it was understood that the drainage district had ownership of that easement. But then when it came time to developing the project, and they had already proceeded so far in advance of their project, it was understood that the drainage district did not, in fact, have ownership to that easement. And so there was a specific property that I think together was 7 owners for that property. And so not everybody wanted to sign up for giving an easement for the project. That took overall about a year of coordination and efforts, yeah. And so at the final hour, I'm hoping we're able to salvage the funding and the project, the connection to another community through TxDOT's gracious right-of-way. So that's the reroute. This is Paredes Line Road, and so the drainage easement, you can't see in this picture, but goes kind of behind that square. You could see it here in the
So
aerial.
this particular section, privately owned, in the preliminary review, they didn't pick up, did somebody err as far as assuming? 'Cause you know what happens when we assume, but in other words, if the belief was that it belonged to a drainage district, it wasn't theirs, and therefore, that's why this created this issue, and it took a whole year?
Yeah, the agreement was in place between the city and the drainage district, and since
City
the
of Brownsville or City of Los
City of
Fresnos?
Brownsville.
Okay.
And because the district, I suppose, was maintaining that easement, but didn't have the right to basically have it for public use per the agreement with the city. We do have a City of Brownsville representative. in case there are-
So the right-of-way is not, the district had an easement for use, but they couldn't convey it?
Yeah, I'm not sure specifically. my understanding was just that there was a misunderstanding of the ownership of that easement.
So Chairman, Policy Board, this is Joel Garza. I'm the Multimodal Transportation Director for the City of Bronzeville. We had a 2013 agreement with the Drainage District to use.
Which one?
Drainage District number 1
From Brownsville,
for Bronzeville.
okay?
And so we had an agreement since 2013 to do this trail on their right-of-way. We updated that agreement in 2021. In that process, we couldn't find the deeds that actually deeded out to the Drainage District. And so we then in turn turned to the landowners to create an easement. They initially said yes. We started working on the PSNE process. We went to 95% to 100% environmental. We were ready to go until the several landowners said no. So we turned to the Drainage District, and since they're the ones that caused this issue, to see what we can do. At the end of the day, we couldn't work it out, and so we asked TxDOT if we can realign this project to use TxDOT right away.
And TxDOT's fine with that? All right, well, I was gonna say, lesson learned with regards to this on behalf of everybody, especially over such a long process, but, okay. Anybody else have any other questions? If not, we need to act on 3 separate resolutions,
That's correct. This is just the first one.
all right? There a motion? Motion by City of Mission, second by Hidalgo County, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The city of Los Fresnos is currently pending an AFA amendment. I believe it was with TxDOT CSD, their contract specialist division, I think. They're addressing comments for environmental. They have their 100% due in early February, so I don't see any issues that we did make some changes through resolution. The next resolution that I'm presenting before you today is Resolution 2023-03. This is for Cameron County's project. This is the original project map. However, due to inflation costs and other, I'm pretty sure it's more the cost of increases over time. Where they're currently at, they are asking to reduce the scope, and so we have some right-of-way coordination going on. Their environmental is under review. They are at 60% working on their 30% comments due early February. And so again, this is a small reduction of the overall project length, I'm sorry. And the resolution is similar. It outlines the history of these funds and why we're presenting it today before the Policy Board for decision.
Anybody else have any questions? Motion approved by Mr. Parker, second by Ms. Golonsky, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
Similarly, Cameron County has the Las Palmas sidewalk projects. They are working on a utility matrix right now to identify any utility conflicts, but their environmental is under review. They're advancing this project with the Olmito one, and so they're also at 60% due in early February. And then this is the schematic, the new revised map. It's just a reduction of scope. Instead of putting sidewalks on both sides of these roads, they're just gonna put them on one side of the road.
We have a motion to approve by Mayor of Edinburgh, second by Commissioner Flores, all in favor? All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. UTRGV will probably be the first to let. They're already working on their 100% due soon, next week. Overall, with all of these projects I just presented on, I want to thank the Policy Board members for approving changes and for working with the local governments, TxDOT staff for working with the RGVMPO and the local governments in developing these projects. I think we've learned a lot of lessons with the older TASA projects that we've inherited as a new MPO. And so in order to continue making sure that we are, obligating our funds in a timely manner, we're looking already at sending some notifications to the 2020, 2021 TASA projects. These projects were programmed through the Policy Board in September of 2021. Award notice letters were sent in October of 2021. And today, in January of 2023, half of the projects have executed AFAs. And so because of that, we have developed this new program schedule of activities. We are putting out a deadline to fully execute all advanced funding agreements by April of 2023, which is almost a year and a half after original programming. And so we're also setting some draft deadlines. If they do not execute their AFAs, there's the potential to reprogram those funds to other projects if the Policy Board so wish. And if they are requesting project changes for any reason, but we're hoping we worked well enough with them before executing AFAs. But in the situation that, that we see project changes are needed, we'll try to come back to you before the end of this fiscal year for that. And so we're continuing to monitor this. I'm kind of putting it out there that if you're able to obligate your funds in 2024, you kind of view it as an A+ student, and waiting until the final hour or when the funds are about to lapse in June, July, and August of 2025 is kind of like, you're barely getting your homework in on time. Yeah, and anything that's coming in after September, you're just getting an F on, because even if you get an F+ for developing your project, but overall F for not being able to obligate those funds.
Thank you, Eva.
Really quickly, I'm just going to say we haven't updated our webpage on the TASA set-aside program. All of our draft documents for the fiscal year 2023-2024 program call that we're preparing for are on our website, available for review, available for comments. We've had 2 working group meetings. We're going to have one third and final working group meeting to revise the Really, we're focusing on scoring criteria and evaluation methods, but we're looking at somewhere between $8 to $11 million in funding. This is the draft timeline of activities. We're hoping to put a bow on everything and finalize it for the March BPAC meeting. And well, this is in your packet and it's available online, but feel free to reach out to me. Some other great news is that we did get our RGVMPO application for the Texas Federal Land Access Program, and this will cover the funds for the full design of an almost 20-mile route in Cameron County, connecting National Park Service land to U.S. Fish and Wildlife land, and overall potentially 4 communities of Los Fresnos, Brownsville, Laguna Vista, and Port Isabel. So that is just some great and wonderful news I want to share. Thank you so much for your time.
The amount of that grant?
The amount of that grant is just about $2.5 million overall, just for the environmental clearance and full design of this.
So this goes from Palo Alto, and it's going to end where?
It's going to end at Port Isabel. It's going to go through the Ecotourism Center, the South Texas Ecotourism Center.
Through Laguna Vista?
Yeah, but where Port Isabel just put their new welcome sign is where we're hoping to end the project.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And
Thank you.
connecting the Brownsville to Los Fresnos connection project that you just approved changes for would be one end of the project to Port Isabel.
Congratulations on that grant award.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you. Item 9, template for Cat 7 reports.
I'll be doing this, Chairman. Melanie was unable to make it today. I'll be brief with you. I'm sorry, I'm unable to advance. Next slide. This will be.
I thought you were done.
No, sir. We're coming out with a new template, which I'll be covering more of in my executive director update of some new initiatives ahead. But we find that the Cameron County RMA template that they use in providing us updates on a monthly basis is very user-friendly, and we think it's pretty concise on the information that's given to us. So we will be asking everybody that's utilizing Category 7 to be providing this type of information and update to the policy board on a quarterly basis. I'll go a little bit more into depth how that's going to be working, but this template will be or has been provided to everybody to use, and it's just simply the project name, CSJ. We'd like to have a map of the project. And then, of course, we can have an update and consideration of where you are through the environmental preliminary engineering right-of-way design and funding process. I think that this is a pretty concise means of conveying the information to the policy board, so as we go through project development and updates, which Chairman Canales spoke to us about last month, the policy board is able to call back upon this material and have a pretty concise line item of where the project is in development. So when we start talking about additional funding, advancing projects or moving projects forward into the tip, everyone at the table is educated on where the project truly is in its development and would be able to make an educated decision based upon the information that's provided in this template. So there will be more information on this in my update under Executive Director, but this is the template we'll be asking everybody to follow.
Any questions? Mayor?
What did we have before?
We had nothing, Mayor. We haven't been doing regular updates on Category 7 projects to the policy board, and we see the need for that to change.
All right. With that in mind, then I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the use of this template for the Cat 7 reports. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, sir.
Item 10, local transportation plan project. Mr. Cantu.
Today, I'm here calling for planning projects. We have officially opened our planning project work program. So in Unified Planning Work Program. It's gonna open in 2024. I'm asking for any planning projects. Last year, the city of Harlingen did request the study of FM 509 corridor, and they were awarded. And just today, we approved that contract under that. The Unified Work Program planning funds can be used to carry out transportation planning activities within our jurisdiction. Local transportation planning activities include but are not limited to corridor studies, access mobility analysis, traffic alignment alternatives, and feasibility studies, bicycle and pedestrian planning, and economic impact of transportation investments. Engineering, design, and construction projects are not eligible for these planning funds. So if you guys have any studies, like, for example, I know last time there was a transit study that would wanted to be done. This time, it could be possible for our next planning. And if we get multiple submittals, we will score them and try to bring them down to the set amount fund. There is a local match that will be required or recommended. And the more you give, the higher your score would be when put against other projects. Any questions?
All right. If not, can I have a motion to acknowledge the report? Motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
And one more thing, deadline would be April 1st for the applications. Thank you.
Probably could have started out with that one. All right. Item 5, RGVMPO Executive Director's Report and Updates.
Yes, sir, I'll go through this quickly. Our financial update is there. At this point in time, we should be 58% expended. We are rounded off to 41%. Some of it, of course, will start coming in of some of the contracts that have been approved as the billings go in through the end of the year. So we are pretty much right on target. We always run a little bit on the low side. I'm pretty frugal with the budget, so we're happy to report on that. On the project readiness work group, this is something I sent out an email. I took the time to visit with some of my partners in San Antonio, Austin, and Houston on some of the programs they may have had in place on Category 7 updates after the chairman came and visited with us last month. And through that, I found that I thought that what San Antonio was more reflective of what we were working with. So we're hoping to form the Project Readiness Work Group. The purpose of this work group will be to meet on a quarterly basis on the month before the update to the policy board. So for example, we're hoping to have our first meeting of the work group next month to be able to gather the updates of where they truly are on project development and readiness, and then bring that to the TAC and to the policy board in March for a discussion and for an update on those projects. We sent out a poll and a survey asking everyone if you would be able to attend. We're looking for all members who have projects in the 10-year UTP funded with Category 7. We have 20 local governmental entities. At this time, we've received 17 responses. A couple of those are TxDOT, so if we back off of that, we have about 15 responses. The date and location, the location will be at TxDOT at their conference room, which is behind the staff parking area, behind the main building at the FAR district area, January 27th at 10 a.m. What we are asking everybody to bring to that meeting is essentially what is in the template that I discussed previously. We'd like to know where your project is in the environmental process, where it is in the right-of-way process, where it is in all phases, so that we can update this information and bring it back to the policy board. From that group, we will be asking a representative to be selected for updating to the policy board on those Category 7 projects. If we cannot find one, then staff will make that update to the board on a quarterly basis based upon that information. The purpose of this group is to provide more information to you, the elected officials who are actually the body of the MPO, for decision-making on projects and funding of those projects. We have a rank process that we use now. We have performance measures that we provide to the policy board. We see this as another tool for the board to be able to use in making those decisions. So if it becomes a difficult decision to think about pushing a project back to bring forward another project that may be accelerating quicker, at least you have all of the ready information that is on hand to make that decision. So that is the purpose of this, and we're hopeful that it will be successful in helping us bring forward and let more projects in the future instead of some of the situations that Chairman Canal has spelled out for us. I would like to point out Transportation Forum is next week, starts on Saturday the 29th, runs to the 31st. My entire staff will be there, so if you're unable to reach us on a landline, please feel free to contact me via cell phone. I think everybody here has mine. If not, I'd be glad to share that with you. I will also be up there an additional day for a Border Trade Advisory Committee. The rest of my staff will be coming back. RGV Days, February 21st to the 23rd. Please keep that in mind. That is something that's being coordinated through the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. It's a region-wide aspect. I know that other local governments have their own days at the Capitol as well. This is just to be a complement of that. And then finally, on the desk in front of you, hopefully everyone has what is hot off the presses, literally our brand-new State of the System report. This is the first time in 18 years that staff has undertaken a task like this. It was one of the things that came out of the executive work group that we had at the island. Along with the placard or rack card as well that has on one side for you the project timeline. Of course, that's just a average timeline for a project, not necessarily they all follow the same. And then on the other side, some abbreviations, some of the acronyms and the definitions of what those acronyms are. We hope you will find this tool to be beneficial. I'm extremely proud of the State of the System report, and my staff will be reaching out and contacting everybody that's here to try to make city commission and county commission court appearances to present this information formally at your city commission venues as well. We're very happy about it. We're hoping to provide this at city hall offices, EDCs, chambers, and so forth, so that the information could also be picked up and utilized by the general public for whatever they may want. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, Chairman. That's all I have today.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Item 6, status report, TxDOT.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Jose Luis Lozano. I'm a project manager with the FAR area office, TxDOT, and I will be presenting 2 projects pertaining to the Hidalgo County. The first project is FM 491. This roadway is north of Mercedes. The scope of work is for the reconstruction and widening of the existing roadway. The project limits are from FM 1390 all the way to 1425, FM 1425. Contractor is Asago Construction. The percent completion is 24%, and the estimated completion date is September of 2023. From this first image, we can see we were actually looking eastbound. The contractor was working on the left-hand side of the roadway. Specifically, they were cement treating 10 inches of the caliche or proposed flex space for this project, while maintaining the right-hand side of the roadway open to traffic going eastbound only. Second image, after the contractor pretty much completed what their cement-treated compacting and grading of the caliche, they proceeded with their seal coat operation, which basically means that they put some oil on top of the flex base, and on top of that oil, they put some coarse aggregate. We can pretty much see the final product. The contractor placed the first lift of the proposed 1.5 inch hot mix asphalt throughout the entire phase 1, step 1 of the project. Contractor will be working on the right-hand side now, pretty much redoing all the work activities that I just mentioned throughout the previous 2 slides, while switching the traffic into the newly paved roadway. The second project is the Nittler Road project, or bridges. The scope of work for this project is for the reconstruction of 2 bridges along Nittler Road. Location 1 is 1.25 miles west of FM 88. FM 88 is on my right-hand side, running from south to north. Location 2, it's 0.20 miles west of FM 88, and the contractor for this project is Foremost Paving. The percent completion is 6%, and the estimated completion date is September of this year. From this first image, we can see that the contractor has already started to mobilize their equipment out there in location 1. We can also see that the contractor has installed the construction exits, and we can barely see them, but we have the sediment control fences out there with some biologs as well. It is worth to mention that the bridge will be closed during the entire construction, but the traffic control was installed out there to redirect the traffic accordingly around this construction site. This image, we can see that the contractor has already started with the demolition operations, specifically on location number 1. They start to demolish the west side abutment. Oh, I'm sorry. This other image, the last image, we can see that the contractor has already demolished the west side abutment, and they proceeded with their drill shaft operation, which basically means that they drilled some holes into the ground, 24-inch diameter holes and 36 feet in depth. After that, they placed their steel cages into the drill shaft and poured some concrete like we see on this image. This basically will be our new foundation to our new bridge abutment. With this, I pretty much conclude my presentation. I will pass it over to Mr. Villarreal.
Thank you, Jose. Good afternoon, board members. Gabriel Villarreal from the San Benito area office. I'll be going over 2 updates for 2 projects that are in Cameron County. The first one is SH 100. This one is in Los Fresnos. It goes from Mesquite Street to Ebano Street. Let's see this clicker right here. Right now, the project is currently 56% complete, and it's estimated to be completed March of this year. Since the last update, the contractor has paved the west portion coming from 1847 to Mesquite Street. As you can see here in the image, they've laid the first layer of hot mix pavement. And right now, currently, the contractor is installing curb and gutter going east of, from 1847 going east towards the rodeo area.
Is this the last section?
Yes, this is the last section, and then there'll be,
Are you sure?
to my knowledge, to my understanding, yes, it is, sir. And this is, after they finish this last hot mix portion, the first layer, there's a second 1.5-inch layer that'll build, that's the final mat that goes throughout.
But you're still looking at the next month and a half, 2 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Before spring break, I'd suggest.
That's the goal. And the next project is the South Parallel Corridor. This one's in San Benito, and it goes from FM 509 to FM 2520. And this is a full rehab project. Right now, this one is 60% complete, and it's estimated to be complete August of this year. Since the last update, the contractor has laid the hot mix pavement from FM 509 up to the Resaca. And right now, as you can see in the image, as of right now, they're currently installing the pavement, hot mix pavement from the Resaca to the end of the project limits. And they're also installing drainage items of work, riprap there at the Resaca. So that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Cameron County RMA?
Good afternoon. Eric Davila on behalf of CCRMA. First project up, Veterans Private Occupancy Vehicle Expansion. This project, even though it's a 16.5% complete, has already poured the new head house foundation, and so walls will be going up here very soon, in addition to concrete paving going in on the new POV lanes here in the next month. So it's picking up a lot of steam, and we'll get rolling here real soon. Still angling for a completion of August of this year. Gap 2, this project is 95% designed already. We've got draft Exhibit A comments back from TxDOT. Soon we'll be, this is from FAR District. We'll soon be hitting that back so we can send it to Bridge Division, and soon after to Union Pacific. That would allow us to try to accelerate the project, have 100% set of plans. This project, as noted, is shovel ready. East Loop, this project is going into a 90% level of PS&E. Environmental is pretty much nearly
Hold on a
complete.
minute. If we lose Mayor, do we still have our quorum? Or do you have somebody else? I'll make sure we don't lose quorum, sorry. We're almost done. Huh? Well, there's no more action, okay. All right. I love being able to tell a mayor you can't leave, man. How about that? Thank you for your understanding, Mayor. Go ahead, Eric, sorry.
No problem. And again, 90% complete. We are coordinating with CBP on the portion of the border wall that needs to be relocated out there. That's going to be, they're going to be taking the lead on that and the cost, although the project does have a levee relocation, which we're coordinating with IBWC. Florida de Mayo Bridge, this project will soon have an environmental scope that will get published. So this one is actively in development. Free Trade Bridge, pretty much have the draft DAA agreement already in place. So this project is also soon to proceed. Morrison Road is still underway, has Cat 7 funds waiting for it there, but it's under preliminary development. Old Alice Road, this project is pretty much nearing 100% environmental completion. We do have some right-of-way, some PSNE plans that were resubmitted due to a joint bid of a utility. Those are going to get routed here to the stakeholders here pretty soon. That's county and TxDOT, so we can have that final review. There is, I guess, a possibility with this project that we could try to accelerate the letting on this one since the project is pretty well underway. FM 509, very similar to Morrison, inactive development, preliminary engineering underway, funding identified. Dana Road, this project is has, I guess, impending AFA that is coming here very soon. We are also trying to schedule our environmental scoping meeting in advance of that so that we can get that project well underway. We've already begun some of the schematic work on that, data gathering and so on. So we're ready to start having those more in-depth technical discussions. Williams Road, another one that we're developing locally. That one is, again, preliminary engineering underway on local funds so that we can get the project shovel-ready, keep chipping away at it. It's about 25% complete. Second Access, we just shut out a ton of right of entries. We've got right of entries at U.S. Fish and Wildlife, joining landowners, and basically environmental document coordination letters that have been reviewed that are going to start going out to the various partner agencies on this one. Harlingen Rail, we've already got the agreement from Union Pacific. We are pending final execution from Federal Railroad Administration on this one. This will dovetail into basically an advanced planning component, which will utilize some remaining funds that were available in the county, plus the $5.6 million available through the CRISI grant that was awarded last year. We'll have a kickoff probably by March. We'll have the UPR team looking at the site and giving us their assessment on the environmental, on what it'll take to go the distance on that project. And South Parallel Corridor Phase 2, actively already under construction, as you guys saw in the project report, and SPC Phase 3 right away underway. 281 connector, this is another one of our long-term objectives. This one is, identified as on a priority, is one of those that we'll keep providing updates on. West Boulevard, 95% design complete, pretty much ready to go into 100%. Just going to meet with stakeholders on this one and show them the latest bid package. Whipple Road, we just completed our public comment period for a public involvement period that we had. So we look to wrap up any final comments, provide the schematic, and keep coordinating that project through the city of Los Fresnos and TxDOT. And then FM 1847, you got a bit of a report on that here earlier on the TASA project. We got 100% plans coming here very soon. The rest are other ventures and details about our goings on. Any specific questions on any project, I'd be happy to answer any questions now.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Eric.
Welcome.
Hidalgo County RMA. Anyone?
Good afternoon, Ramon Navarro on behalf of the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority. The full report is in the packet, and I'll go over some quick highlights. As far as construction is concerned, we are approximately 58% 54% complete, or we paid out 58 million at 23% complete. Time is about 25%, so we're going hand in hand. Last night, we approved pay estimate number of 10 in the amount of approximately $943,000, which kicks it up a little more. As far as construction progress, you'll see substructures of bridges at Anaya, High Line, the floodway. And I'd like to announce that we will be doing a temporary detour on the west end on FM 494, probably next week sometime. This is to install some drainage appurtenances, some 12 by 12 boxes. The water table is extremely high, and the only way we can do that is to shut the road down and do it all at one time. But we will be coordinating and doing press releases and appropriately speaking and collaborating with all the agencies that are impacted by that and all the local governments. As far as our toll system collection program, we did have 5 bidders submit. Evaluation committee met on Monday. We have additional questions and concerns on some of these proposals. We'll be meeting on the 8th to do online interviews and shortlist 3 agencies to bring before the board for approval in March. And the IBTC project, we continue to coordinate with TxDOT, MPO, FHWA on the necessary documents to process this and get this scheduled appropriately to advance engineering staging. And the highlight of the project would be the overweight summary for the year. This overall, we issued 41,104 permits. Total permit fees collected were approximately 8.2 million. And you can see how the shares divided out on the cost. There's a graph showing at the end, after halfway through the year, after we got through the pandemic, the bridge closures, et cetera, we averaged about anywhere from 14, on average, I'd say it's about 15% overage over last year, which is the blue line. And since its conception, this program was concepted in January of 14. We've collected approximately $43,847,400 in the project that has been distributed and moved in towards additional infrastructure along the overweight corridor. Questions, concerns I can entertain at this time?
There's nobody left.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, everyone. Item 7, other business, old or new? Go ahead. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna bring that up next. What I wanted to bring up here real quick, I understand City of Mission has an event coming up, Mayor?
Yes, we have the
Which is this weekend? All right, for what time to what time? And
We have a brunch at 9:15 at our event center, and then the parade is at noon.
okay.
And I would love to have any of y'all come and ride on a float with us. Yeah,
I wanted to give you an opportunity to make sure everybody knew about that, okay?
well, thank you.
Charro Days will be 22nd or 24th through the 26th in Brownsville. Sombrero Fest, and then we've got McAllen. Doesn't McAllen? Nobody stuck around for the end of the meeting, man. I mean, McAllen has theirs. What is it? The Hidalgo Fest right after Charro Days. Border Fest. Thank you. All right. Lastly, next meeting, we're set.
Judge, I did have one item, if
Go
you
ahead.
don't mind. Wanted to bring up some new developments. In the past, TxDOT FAR District has accepted,
Probably should have done this while everybody was still here, but anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
in the past, FAR District has accepted donations by local governments as far as services to the various components of a project, whether they be planning, design, environmental, right-of-way, utilities, and things of that nature. Moving forward, the FAR District will no longer be accepting donation services for the projects that are on system. I want to clarify, this is for on-system projects only. And so we are no longer going to be allowing this. We are fortunate enough to have the resources, namely funding, capacity, for us to be able to do these projects in-house. We sincerely appreciate the local governments, whether city, county, RMAs, and what have you, that have provided these services in the past. We're just at a point where we got to get projects shovel-ready. We would like for the local governments to utilize their resources and focus on the off-system projects. And then from that perspective moving forward, we will be taking the lead. There are some agreements in place at this time. Our intentions are to find a logical termini for the current phase that the project may be in. If there's any issues or concerns, please get with me so we can discuss in detail. This is, once again, thanking our local governments for your willingness to help us. It's just that we have to be at a point to deliver projects. And we were all challenged last month by Chairman Canales, and our goal here is to continue to work in partnership for the various projects in our region. So thank you for understanding. Any questions on this, please get with me one-on-one so that we can be able to proceed and deliver the program.
So we're clear, Pete, what you're saying in the directive that you received from your higher-ups is that going forward on any on-system projects where there was a local contribution or involvement that may have delayed the movement of the project, TxDOT now is saying we're going to move those projects forward on our own without that local component, and if it's not ready, those projects, if they're not close to being shovel-ready, especially if it's off-system, or just on-system.
No, this is strictly for on-system. Your comment is correct. Now, there are some projects that have moved along nicely that are like, say, 90% complete for a certain phase, but that's the right thing to do. We're gonna finish out that phase. But
Is there a
again,
minimum as far as how far along some of these may have to be so that they don't fall victim to this new change?
we haven't established a minimum. I think that that's where the one-on-one conversation needs
Okay.
to come in, so we can have a better understanding where the local government is in their process.
Okay, all right. This is a huge change, so if you need any clarification, please get with Pete, because it's gonna have an impact on us going forward. But it goes back to the challenge that we received from the chairman and what we've been talking about. Projects have to be shovel-ready so that we can spend the money and get more funding for the additional projects. All right, next meeting. We're set for February the 15th. I will not be available on that day. The 22nd is the RGV day, if I'm not mistaken. So all of us, or most of us, won't be available that week. The following week is, I believe, March the 1st. Does anybody have a conflict with that date, moving the meeting of the 15th to the 1st, still having our meeting on the 29th of March? Yes, sir. Okay. If not, I'm going to ask that you send out an email, Andrew, advising everybody of that change. If there is an issue, then we may have to stick to the 15th, but we want to make sure that we're going to have enough people available on the 1st and/or the 15th. Any other issues with regards to the meetings? I want to thank you all for sticking around till the very, 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 very end, and we stand adjourned. Actually, we got a lot. I didn't think it was going to take this long, but we were busy.
Put a sign on the